Hey Miranda, thanks for your reply. I like how you focused on internal and external conditions within your discussion. And I think that the internal and external conditions have somewhat become forgotten in schools today. Um, in my observation, teachers don't really focus on these conditions. So if an internal or an external issue arises, many teachers bring the student to an SST meeting where the discussion occurs to determine if psychological testing needs to be completed or if an educational testing needs to be done. And then you sit down and think about, does this child need special education services? A lot of times teachers also contact the counselor immediately if there's an internal issue within the child. And for example, there's a second grader at my school and she refuses to talk. Therefore, we can't get a really good gauge on her level of academic performance. And she was immediately brought up to an SST meeting within the first 2 or 3 weeks of school. And at my school, we stated that you couldn't have an SST meeting until after the first month of school, but she was immediately brought up. And of course, at the meeting, we discussed counseling sessions. We tried to contact the parent, come up with some ideas on how to support her. But I think this example just proves that not all children are the same. And kind of relating back to your original post, teachers can't have the same expectations for all of their children. You can't expect, you know, all children to even talk, the first week of school or be on a particular academic level because they're all not. And I mean, we just finished the first month of school, so hopefully that little girl that I was talking about, hopefully she'll start to become comfortable and, begin speaking. And then for external conditions, I also see these brought up in a lot of SST meetings. So for example, a teacher, you know, and these are very common examples. A teacher will come and say, this student is highly distracted, he can't sit still, he's constantly talking, he doesn't complete any of his work. And so when we ask the teacher, well, what have you done to support the child? Have you differentiated any of your instruction, and not differentiated as in like, having different types of rotations, but really individualizing um, the some the strategies for that child. And a lot of times the teacher says no because he's expected to learn like the other children. So once again, you can't have those same exact expectations, and you really have to try to differentiate the instruction for each child. And that common example reminds me of in another class when we watched that video about a particular classroom and all the children were up and moving. The classroom was filled with um, bicycles, treadmills, and ellipticals, and that is very differentiating to me. But I think sometimes a kid just needs to stand up and move around, do some jumping jacks, set the timer so he's working for a certain amount of time, and then he can move. But I don't know, I think there needs to be some type of training or refresher for teachers because they really aren't considering these types of internal and external conditions and how they're really affecting the children.